back to Tanya. Let's try to remember where we're up to. So I'm going to do a little review of the past few chapters so we can, remember where we're up to date. We're up to we just finished chapter 40. The chapter right before that, so let me just see. Chapter 35 to 40 was explaining the purpose. No, I put a real knife. The purpose of... It's okay. The real knife is sur la sienne. Okay? Chapter 35 to 40 was explaining the purpose of creation. Why we are here. The whole reason of being in this world is for action. Is every time we do an action, we're actually making a change. Okay, obviously it has to be a mitzvah. When I say action, it's a positive action, a mitzvah. We're connecting to God. We're removing the klipa that's hiding God and bringing more light into this world. We explain how everyone is given a portion of this world that they're responsible for, and only they are able to elevate and make a change to their portion. So whatever you have, wherever situation you're put in, whatever strength you got, or if you see them as weaknesses, whatever negative things you have, everything was given to you for your purpose, and everything is for a reason. Nothing is by chance. There's no y a pas d'hasard. Everything was meant to be exactly the way, so you can make that difference, that change. You can elevate and bring more godliness into this world. This is what we were talking about in the previous chapter. We spoke about how action is the most important, but then we explained how kavana, having intention, right? Not just doing actions, but also thinking why you're doing that action is important, right? You remember? Kavana, intention versus action. And how when you use passion and excitement and emotion, kavana, intention, you give wings to your action. So your actions are like a bird. When you take that action and you have proper intentions, you do it with excitement, okay? Whatever mitzvah you're supposed to do, whatever action you're supposed to do, you're actually thinking about it and having proper intention, then you're giving wings and that action is able to fly. And we also related it to a relationship that, yes, you can be in a relationship and do everything right. But if you don't put intention, you don't put love, you don't pay attention to the other person and have some passion, then that relationship won't last, because you need kavana, you need intention. So as much as action is very important, right? Intention is also very important. So this is what we concluded in chapter 40. Chapter 41, before I begin, I want to start with a story, a beautiful story that I heard that is so related. Yes, go ahead.
Maisonnette ou à quoi?
Maisonnette, toujours j'achète maisonnette, ouais.
Ok, non, parce qu'il y a le...
Il y a le quoi?
Il y a ça là.
Et tu peux mettre ça.
Ok, mais ça c'est...
Ça c'est chez Acol. Mais quand tu le mets dans le pain, tu fais juste maisonnette. Okay, sorry about that. So, there is a Jewish businessman who's from England, and many times he travels. He travels to Hong Kong, to different places in Asia, and sometimes to the U.S., many times to the U.S. And when he comes to the U.S., he happens to be also a Chabad person, and he comes to visit the Rebbe. This is when the Rebbe was alive. So one time on his business trip, he came to New York, and he went and he spoke to the Rebbe. And before he left, the Rebbe gave him a little book of Tanya, and told him, hi, you can say hi to Cheryl, and he didn't realize what he was doing, and told him, here, this book of Tanya, this is for a Jew that you will meet on your traveling, when you're on your travels. He said, okay. So he took it with him. And from New York, he went to China, and to do some business, and he didn't meet one Jew, not one Jew. He looked, he asked, he did not meet anyone. And he stayed a few days there, and then he traveled to another place, and finally he's in Hong Kong, and this is his last flight from Hong Kong back home to England. And he said, wait, the Rebbe doesn't make a mistake. If he told me that this Tanya is for a Jew on my travels, then there has to be a Jew on my travels. And he's so desperate that he goes and he asks the stewardess, he begs the stewardess, can you please make an announcement on the intercom on the plane and ask, is there a Jew on this plane? This was back 30 years ago. Marie just said it's so dangerous, but he was so desperate. He knew he was on a mission of the Rebbe. He knew that if the Rebbe gave him a Tanya, there has to be a Jew. He's going home now. His travels are over, and he didn't accomplish his mission. He couldn't imagine what will happen if he doesn't accomplish his mission. So the stewardess really didn't want us to do that. The stewardess really didn't want to do that. Hi, Dorit. She's like, hello, I'm not asking if there's a Jew on the plane. But after him begging and begging and begging and sincerely begging, she said, okay. And she went on the intercom and she announced, is there any Jew on the plane? Is there any Jew on the plane? And little and behold, there was one Jewish man on the plane. And when he heard that, he got so offended. He said, excuse me, what? Now I need to identify who is asking if there's a Jew on the plane. It bothered him so much that he went to the stewardess and he's like, why are you guys asking that question? And they're like, I'm so sorry. We didn't want to. Go talk to this rabbi. It's his fault. He begged me to make that announcement. So he goes to that rabbi and he says, did you make that announcement? He's like, what, you're Jewish? And he's so happy, his face lights up. And he says, yes, but why did you make that announcement? That really bothered me. He said, listen, you have to listen. I was so desperate. Listen to my story. He said, I was traveling from the US to different places in Asia. I'm a businessman, and my Rebbe, my leader, my mentor gave me a mission to give a Tanya to a Jew during my travels. No. And I did not find one. Every place I went, I did not find once a Jew. And this was my last flight home to England. And I said, I need to do the Rebbe is a holy man. He knows what he's saying. If he said I need to give this, there has to be a Jew on this plane, because this is my last mission, my last trip. And so here, this gift is for you. And he's like, no, it's not for me. I'm not religious. I don't keep anything. What do you mean? He said, I'm telling you, this book, it's a Tanya, little book of Tanya. The Rebbe wants you to have it. It's a gift from the Rebbe for you. He said he didn't want to agree. He said, I don't believe that. He said, what is this book? He said, it's a book that will change your life. He said, okay, open one page and read me inside. So he opens the book randomly to one page and he tells me what, and he points to a sentence, the man, and he said, every Jew is chelek elakai mimal mamish, is a part of God, really. Every Jew has a neshama that's a part of God, that's really a part of God, connected to God. And this man on the plane, not religious, disconnected completely, starts crying and crying and crying. They sit on the flight they asked someone if they could move. They sat down, said, I need to tell you a story. I grew up in New York, in Brooklyn. We were traditional. We used to go to synagogue, but we would also, we weren't religious that much, and we would go play baseball, and I was into all the sports and whatever, regular American Jewish boy. Until my father got a job offer and we moved to Hong Kong. And in Hong Kong, we left everything. There was no synagogues, there was nothing traditional, and I forgot everything about my Judaism, to the point that I grew up and I went to Oxford University in England. And over there I met a non-Jew, and we were planning to get married. And when I told my parents, they got so upset at me. And I told them, why are you upset at me? You never taught me anything. You guys didn't even make it a point to have, anything Jewish happening when we moved to Hong Kong. Why are you suddenly upset at me that I'm marrying a non-Jew? And they're like, no, they were really upset. And the parents even got in a fight with him. And they're like, we're not coming to the wedding. And here I just came to Hong Kong to tell my parents that whether they like it or not, I'm still getting married to her. And I'm going home, and that's it. In 2 weeks is my wedding. And I was a little bit disturbed on the plane going home that my parents are so forcefully out against this, but I had no reason. And here you come with this Tanya telling me that every single Jew is a part of God. This, for me, he felt that God gave him that message that no. And he broke off, he came to England, he broke off the marriage, and he wanted to learn more about who this Rebbe is and what is. So he went to Brooklyn, he met the Rebbe, and he ended up marrying a Jewish girl. I thought the story was beautiful. How sometimes in life where we don't realize the presence of God in our daily life, in every action, that God is constantly there watching over us. We don't realize, we don't notice, we don't feel. And sometimes we're lucky enough to have a story that shakes us up and make us realize that no, God knows exactly what is happening. And He's there. He's there, constantly there. We just have to connect to that. Chapter 41, imagine yesterday, actually Saturday night, we drove to New York. And my family, my in-laws were in New York for a bar mitzvah, and we wanted to visit them. We wanted the family to meet them. So we drove the whole Saturday night. We got there Sunday morning. We went to the Ohel, and then we hung out with them, and then came back home. So I should be a little bit exhausted, but I was still, let me tell you why I'm motivated to give my class. When I came to the Ohel, I always question my choices that I made. Always like, am I crazy that I took my whole family and drove? And I come to the Ohel, and I see the Rebbe, the minute I sit down, I settled all my kids, gave them food, made sure they were good. The minute I sit down to watch the Rebbe video, he says in chapter 41, it says that it says that God is always watching, a Jew is always there constantly and knows his every action. And I'm like, I'm up to chapter 41. For me, it was like, wow, okay. First of all, I have to teach Tanya tomorrow. But I felt like I was meant to be in New York. I actually happened to meet just the people I was supposed to meet. Everything was, and my kids loved it, and we hung out with the family. It was really beautiful.
And you are supposed to teach the Tanya.
And that's why I didn't cancel. I was debating. We got home at 4 a.m. What's tomorrow? Oh, yeah.
Don't forget.
Yeah.
Reminder.
And so, hi, Donna. Oh, no, I don't know who actually joined. No, it's my mother. Hi, Mom. I thought it was Donna. So, that was for me a little sign that, yes, there is somebody out there who knows exactly where I am, what I'm doing, and even if it was a crazy choice I made, it was a good choice. My kids, even if they were tired this morning, they told me, Mommy, this was the best trip we ever had. They had such a good time. So yeah. So that's what I wanted to start. This is chapter 41. What does chapter 41 talk about? So let's understand what the other chapters spoke about, where we're up to. We're concluding the Tanya. There's only 53 chapters. 53. So we have how much? We have 12 chapters left, right? Chapters 1 to 18 explores the inner chemistry of the human soul, right? That we have two souls. We have the animal soul and we have the godly soul, and how it works with the Sfirot. 1 to 18. 18 to 25 explores... Hein?
J'ai l'impression qu'on vient de commencer.
Ça fait 2 ans, presque 2 ans et demi. Yeah, we'll redo. There's so much to learn. So much to learn. So 1 to 17, I'm sorry, 1 to 17 explores the inner chemistry of our souls. Our godly soul, our animal soul, how they're built, the Sfirot, right? The Sfirot. That's what the first 17 chapters. 18 to 25 explores the foundation of Jewish faith. So now we know we have a godly soul. So what is our Jewish faith? What connects us? What makes it? How do we express? So it talks about, Torah, how when we learn we're connected to God. It talks about the mitzvot, what happens when we do mitzvah, okay? So that's the foundation of the Jewish faith. And it talks about believing in God, Momo. You want to sit and play? You can sit here, but don't wave, okay? And finally, chapters 28 to 34, the Alter Rebbe explains how important joy is in the service of God, right? That sometimes because we have that struggle of the two souls, we might feel sad or depressed. But how to get rid of our sadness and how to express joy and constantly be full of joy. And 35 to 40, right? The last we did. We spoke about, because you didn't realize, we spoke about the sadness, how we have to get rid of it. Once you get rid of it, joy comes. Sadness is an absence.
Non, tu as nommé 20 chapitres. On a parlé de joy pendant 20 chapitres.
On a parlé beaucoup de la tristesse, des différentes tristesses et comment il faut se... Mais c'est relié automatiquement avec la joie. Once you get rid of joy, it's like once you get in order... Anyways, I don't know if it makes sense. Once we get rid of darkness, we get light. But it's the opposite. Add light and you get rid of darkness. But it was important to go through those sadness and how to deal with them. And finally, 35 to 40, the last 5 chapters, we learned about the purpose of the universe, right? How action is important, how to have intention, what's the whole purpose of this world, what is our purpose in this world, how only we can change our environment and nobody else. And chapter 41 starts exploring the emotional life of a Jewish soul. Do you know that according to Tanya, according to Kabbalah, there are only 2 emotions. All other emotion derives from those. Momo, you have to stop. All those emotion derives from those 2. What's the 2?
Fear and love.
Fear and love. Okay, over here you see Gvura and Chesed. Gvura is fear, strength, judgment, anything that takes away, right? And Chesed is love, anything that goes beyond. You know, when you see the waves go back and forth, represents the love and the Gvura, constantly going and coming back. Going is Chesed, is expansion, is giving, is loving. Gvura is removing. Chapter 41 explains how important and fundamental is Gvura in a relationship with Hashem. And of course, because the relationship of a Jew towards Hashem is the perfect relationship, how important Gvura is in any relationship. If you want a relationship to exist, to continue, to be healthy and evolve, you need Gvura, you need fear.
Which is what again?
This is what we're going to explain.
Yeah,
we're going to read inside and then I'm going to explain more, okay? Beram tzarich lias lezichron tamid reishis havayda veikara vesharsha. One must, however, constantly bear in mind what is the beginning of the divine service as well as its core and root, okay? So someone, okay, so we're continuing from the other chapter that said about, kavana, but here he says, but one must always remember what's the most important of his service of God, okay? Is Vehu ki afsha yirahi sharash lasur meira ve'ava la'osetev. This means, although fear is the root of turn away from evil and love is the root of do good, okay, I'm going to explain everything. I just like to read it inside so you know I'm not making it up. Afal pikein lai dai le'arer ha'ahava levada le'osetev. Nevertheless, it is not sufficient to awaken the love alone to do good. Liftoach tzarich le'orer tchila hayira hativis hamisuteras belev kol Yisrael sheloi lemarar b'melach machem lachem hakadosh baruch hu k'nizkar le'al. But at the very least, before performing the positive commandment, one must first arouse the innate fear which lies hidden in the heart of every Jew, not to rebel against the Supreme King of Kings, the Holy One, blessed be He, as has been stated above. So in us we have an innate fear of God that we have to arouse. So that this fear should manifest itself in his heart, or at least in his mind. This means that in order to arouse within himself the latter category of fear, he should at least contemplate in his mind the greatness of the blessed Ein Sof and his kingship. Asher hi malchus kol elamim elyanim v'tachtanim, which extends to all worlds, both higher and lower, bearing in mind that the greater the king's dominion, the more awe it inspires in his subjects. Ve'ehu mimale kol almin, and let him further consider that he fills all the worlds, v'seviv kol almin, and encompasses all worlds. V'kamay shekasav halay eshamayim ve'asaretz ani male, as it is written, do I not fill heaven and earth? Umeiniach elyanim v'tachtanim, yet he leaves aside the creatures of the higher worlds and the creatures of the lower worlds. Umiyachen umachsay alama Yisrael bechlal v'alav ubefrat ki chayav adam lamer b'shvil li nivra'elam. He uniquely bestows his kingship upon his people Israel in general, for God is known as King of Israel, and upon him in particular, for a man is obliged to say, for my sake was the world created. Okay? So let's take a little break and explain. The Tanya over here is going to explain how your emotions, what emotions you should be developing and refining or bringing out, okay, in order to feel a healthy love towards God. So one would think that, I should just develop the love of God, right? I just want to connect, doing mitzvahs, doing things for God. Over here, chapter 41 tells him before love of God, something fundamental in our love of Hashem is the fear. What does that mean? Is being aware that God is everywhere in this world. He's right here, and he's the most important thing because he's the creator of the world, right? Yeah. And he actually chose us, chose the Jewish people, chose you and you to be his people, the one to do his mission of bringing more light into this world, of doing Torah and mitzvot. That thought, okay, of course, a little bit more deep, should bring you this awe, this awareness, this fear that you're nothing. What fear does, it brings you to feel nothing, right? It retrieves. What I said was Gvura retrieves. The action of Gvura is anything that takes back. The action of Chesed is anything that expands. So let me give this in a practical relationship. In a practical relationship, you have this love towards your child. You want to, it's funny, I'm going to give an example. Yesterday, okay? I met my nephew for the first time. He's 6 years old. So cute. And before he left, I just wanted to hug him, like it's the love I felt for him. I just wanted to hug him, but he didn't want. And the parents are like, come on, like how the parents come on. And I said, it's okay. I respect that child. That's a different form of love. By taking myself from expanding my love and respecting the child, that is also a form of love. So this isn't a little action. In a relationship, sometimes...
But the word fear, c'est ça que je comprends pas.
It comes from...
to be humble towards him, because fear is
the root. Fear is the root of humble. I told you there's a fear, and maybe you translate it differently, but
I don't want to fear God. For me,
but you don't understand what fear means. Fear means to make yourself small, to have this awe.
This I agree.
So that's what it means. But it's a mental work that you have to work, and like si vraiment tu sentais comme ça, you you would constantly be serving God. So it's a certain feeling of nothingness and of wanting to still exist, because you can't stop existing, and doing
En fait, ça n'a
what you
rien à
want.
voir avec la peur telle qu'on l'a...
Non,
telle
la
qu'on
peur
l'a-
que nous en expérience, c'est la
C'est
façon
autre chose,
négative
oui.
que
C'est ça.
s'exprime cette peur. But in a positive
Dans
way,
le Tanya, ils le disent, le mot peur,
yeah, but in the positive way,
which is
which is to think of someone who you really
Mais en
respect.
fait, le mot A
Think of
en
someone
anglais,
who
je
you-
trouve que ça correspond
Hein?
beaucoup plus.
Ah,
Le
it
mot
is.
A en anglais correspond
Le mot
beaucoup
quoi?
plus.
Ah.
A-W-E.
A-W-E.
Ça correspond beaucoup plus.
Je connais pas
Parce que ce mot-là n'a pas le sens de la...
Parce que
Attends,
Dans
une
les
minute, ma mère, elle veut
religions,
parler.
Dans les religions, il y a toujours ce système de si tu fais pas comme Dieu veut.
Attends, ma mère, elle veut rajouter quelque chose. Yes, go ahead.
Par exemple, si on prend l'amour d'un couple, ça peut être envahissant. S'il y a cette crainte, c'est synonyme aussi au respect, où on laisse l'espace à la personne. On se retient et on se dit non, c'est négatif. Donner trop par moment, c'est négatif. Donc,
Je suis d'accord.
se restreindre, c'est ça la crainte. C'est comme elle a dit Sterna, la crainte c'est un grand mot. Il faut savoir comment, dans quel
Je vais
contexte
te dire
on
c'est
le
quoi.
place.
Oh, exactly.
Ouais,
Pour
mais
ajouter
mamie,
la
attends,
crainte.
2 secondes. Mamie, le mot qui est utilisé là, c'est Gvura. Hi, c'est Dorit, by the way. C'est Gvura. Et Gvura,
Oui.
pour moi, ça rime avec sévérité. Et moi, ce que j'aime pas du tout de n'importe quel principe, c'est que si tu fais pas comme c'est dit, bah, il y aura la sévérité, il y aura la punition, il y aura ci, il y aura ça. Est-ce que c'est ça qu'on parle là?
c'est la déformation. Non,
C'est
non.
déformation.
Ça, c'est la déformation. Je te donne un exemple de Gvura. Justement, le Pirkei Avot, il dit Eze o gibor hakovesh et titzrot. Par exemple, tu es en colère, tu as envie de donner une gifle, tu te retiens, ça prend beaucoup de Gvura de se retenir ou de dire quelque chose. C'est de cette Gvura qu'on parle.
Ok, mais Gvura, là, comment tu
Can
l'as
I give
traduit?
an-
C'est courage, ça.
Non, c'est pas
la
courage,
Gvura,
it's
ça peut être
strength.
négatif et positif. Chaque chose, il y a un côté négatif, positif.
So you're connecting to the negative way of that word. How does it express in a positive way? Another good example, I think it could be a good example. A husband loves his wife, right? And he's very thoughtful. Like, he thinks whenever he sees something, he'll buy her, the gifts, and he knows exactly what she likes. So he's thoughtful in that way. But he's never careful with coming on time, or he'll come late. So once, he bought a beautiful bouquet that he found and he knew exactly was her flowers, but he came late, and he brings this bouquet and she refuses it. Does she have a right to refuse it and be upset? Does his love with buying him, wait, listen to my question. Is the love that he expressed holding if he can't respect and fear of breaking her boundaries where she needs him home at a certain time for whatever reason? She wants to spend time. That, it's not control. So this is, no. So this in a relationship is very important, okay? I have my boundaries. I want to make sure, healthy boundaries
What
in a...
is boundaries with God?
So with God, so let me first explain in a relationship and then we'll go with God. So in a relationship is, I have certain things that if I don't put my boundaries in my relationship, I will be stepped over and I will be miserable and I won't be able to feel that love of my other person, whether it's my husband, my kids, so it's important. That person should have fear of breaking your boundaries because you're so important to them. You're so important to them.
C'est le respect.
That's but it's
Mais
the same thing.
De peur. Moi, c'est ça qui-
In
c'est le mot, le
in
choix.
Judaism, the fear is that you're so scared of disconnecting from God. If you really understand that every time you do a sin or you don't do a mitzvah,
What's happening?
you disconnect from God, that should bring a fear. That fear
Of what?
should
A
come
fear
from
of what?
of being disconnected to God.
Yeah, but it's so personal.
It is
not-
very personal.
So what are the boundaries that you're cutting, like with God?
The boundaries is that
God
God wants to be in your life. He wants you constantly to connect. His boundaries is you not doing or doing certain things. When you don't respect those boundaries, okay? Those boundaries is between you and God. You're losing out on the relationship with God. If you are aware of that. We're not aware. That's why you can't understand, because I don't even realize that. I do it, I believe it. Sometimes I'm put in certain situation where I realize, wow, God is really there. I need to realize, but it's so hard to constantly realize that. But certain times you can, like in that story, that boy who was going to marry this non-Jew suddenly realized that he got this gift out of nowhere. He was just going home when he finally told his parents he's marrying this non-Jewish woman, and this man comes and begs and finds him and gives him this gift, opens the books, find exactly the words he needed to hear. For him, that was like, wow, God is in my life. He knows exactly what I'm about to do. And he knows, for him, that was a wake-up call. Okay? To always live in that wake-up call is, of course, very hard, but it's a work. It's a meditation that we have to do. And think about what's Jewish meditation is when you take a phrase and you realize that God is everywhere in this world. He knows exactly what you do. He wants to be constantly connected to you. You constantly. He gave you Torah and mitzvot. Those are the way you connect to God. Has nothing to do with you or me.
No,
it's the way that you can connect. So how? Because the base of a relationship, the base. So, but we're not talking. But that's not what we're saying.
Il y a la peur que si tu respectes pas, il y a une conséquence.
Là, la conséquence, non, mais c'est quoi la conséquence?
Il n'y a pas de conséquence.
Tu vas te, c'est normal. Tu vas te déconnecter. C'est comme si.
Moi, je fais pas toutes les Torah et Mitzvot, un jour peut-être, mais pourtant, je suis très connectée. I feel it in my heart. I meditate. I want to feel close to him, but I still don't do Torah and Mitzvot.
But you do every day a little bit more. It doesn't mean. So that's good. So that's good already. And we're not saying that.
Of course, I'm afraid of God que Dieu préserve, il me retire un jour quelque chose de tellement.
But your fear, imagine.
Mais c'est handicapant cette peur. Tu vois ce que je veux dire? Ça me
No, I don't think
moi,
so.
Pour moi, le bon Dieu, il a le pouvoir de tout. De tout.
But I think you don't even realize that you have an innate fear that you're constantly doing something.
It is here, but I'm trying
the
not
fact
to
that
be
you're
her.
the fact that you're doing something for God, that means that He's important enough that you fear not feeling that connection.
100%.
So that's what we're talking about. After, do you have to go to the whole extreme? No, but it's a work that slowly, it's like in a relationship. For me, my husband's so important. I fear not being connected. I will always try to listen, or to my kids too. I will always try to be aware what is important for them. What do they need? Am I doing the right thing? That's a constant thing. I'm not like, oh, that's it, I'm done.
So
I'm good.
Translated to not take it for granted. This is different. Et c'est la base de
It's
toute
not enough not
relation,
taking for
c'est de ne
granted.
rien prendre pour acquis because it is not. So you have to cancel.
Ne
the
rien
word
prendre pour
coming.
acquis, c'est très général.
Pas du
Fear
tout, c'est pas
is the
général.
basic. Is
Moi,
when you.
quand j'entends le mot gvura, j'ai peur. Et quand j'ai peur, je suis paralysée, j'ai envie de rien faire. J'ai
So
envie
you're
de rien
using
faire parce que ça me
a
fait
negative
peur.
fear
Non,
probably.
mais parce que la peur, pour moi, ça me paralyse, ça me coupe de tout. Tu comprends? Moi, ma peur
Et donc,
numéro un, c'est de
comprends
donner le
comment elle a
pouvoir à
été-
Dieu qui peut me
So
prendre
you
un
were
de mes
you
parents,
were
un de
you
mes
were
enfants, un
used
de mes-
you were
you know?
manipulated with a very negative fear.
Manipulated, I don't know.
Tu
but
l'apprends
for me,
comme elle
fear,
nous a
il
été
une
enseignée en
mauvaise,
France.
But it's not
Comme elle
the
nous a été
way.
enseignée en France.
It's not the
Tu
way.
l'apprends comme elle nous a été
Mais pas que
enseignée.
d'un côté religieux,
En France.
en général, même dans un...
Bernard,
Yeah.
Bernard, je voudrais dire quelque chose. Il y a différents, le Tanya, la Chassidut, elle explique différentes peurs. Il y a une peur qui est très basique. On appelle ça Irat Haonesh. J'ai peur parce que je vais être puni. Maintenant, il ne faut pas rester à ce niveau-là parce que, comme tu dis, il faut monter à un autre niveau, Irat Hached. Après, il y a un autre niveau, c'est que je ne veux pas décevoir Hachem. Je l'aime tellement, je veux être connectée avec Hachem, avec mon mari, avec
Mes enfants.
avec mon ami. Je ne veux pas la décevoir, donc je fais attention.
My connection,
Ah,
my
c'est bon,
internet,
c'est bon.
Maman, we don't hear you. It's not.
Ah, c'est tellement
Oh.
intéressant en plus.
Il y a des différents niveaux.
Ouais.
Oh. Yeah?
No,
You
we
don't hear
missed.
me?
We missed a little bit, but yes, you basically you said that that we're so connected that we fear to disconnect, to disappoint, to... It's not only gratitude. Gratitude is a different feeling. You said not taking anything for granted.
Granted is not gratitude.
Okay, it's not gratitude.
Granted, c'est like prendre pour acquis.
But it's not the same thing. You really have to have
Moi,
that.
je prends pas pour acquis que mes enfants, c'est mes enfants forever. Like, no, I don't ever take it for granted.
But that's a different... It's not what we're talking about.
But oui, mais...
We're talking about a fear. It says that...
I really need a one-on-one on this one parce que je te jure que ça m'angoisse plus qu'autre chose. And every time we bring that...
It's
like,
probably
I'm
a trigger.
like,
If you're angoissed, it's because
me.
maybe in
I
your
don't wanna
childhood,
see
they
God
used a lot
as
of...
someone I have to fear. I want to see God as someone I have to adore and...
Did you
above
ever
everything and every person.
experience someone really important, okay, that you had this like awe of? That you never... I'm not talking about someone important according to the world, someone important in a refined way that I experienced it, certain, and not a lot, of someone who's not important because they're wealthy or they're beautiful. No, who's important because they have a certain beautiful, I don't know what it is, and usually it's more spiritual people. I mean, I remember as a kid, I was brought to the Rebbe. I remember feeling that fear. I couldn't see him, so it is a very positive
like
fear.
Superstar, like you're impressed.
Exactly. So that is fear. That's the fear we're talking about. That's the fear that you have so much respect, okay? And the more you get to know, and by knowing that this same person, okay, we can't call God a person, but this person who you fear wants you in his life, or wants to be connected, wants you to connect, chose you. This fear is what's going to help you express your love towards him. It's the basis in a loving relationship. It's the base of a relationship. And this is what we're going to delve more into it in more details. The Tanya says that love is always connected to doing, and fear is connected to not doing.
Doing, fair?
Yeah, doing. Exactly. So love will do actions, but certain times you have to stop. Fear stops you from, in a way, it's that paralysé. That's what fear does. That's what fear does. It should paralyze you. It should stop you from doing things that are negative, that will disconnect you from God. So that fear should be dwelled in a positive way. I mean, a lot of people use fear to control, and maybe that's what it triggers you. But over here, that's why, of course, the Alter Rebbe has to take a whole chapter, because he knows how we use our emotion for the wrong thing, and he explains how this fear has to be used for the right, has to be developed in the right sense to give us that fear of being disconnected, so strong that we don't want to do anything wrong in our relationship. Any question? Okay, so this is the class. I wanted to show you actually the Sfirot over here. Just a little review, because now it is, I know it's backwards, it's not so clear, but I'm going to say them. We're now during Sfirat Omer, and every week it's a different Sfira, okay? So over here we see there's the three intellectual Sfira, which is Chochma, Bina, and Das, okay? And then there's the 7 emotions. So over here is Gvura, okay? And over here is kindness, okay? The right side is always the kind side. Gvura is the left side, okay? But you need both in order to create harmony. In the middle is the Sfira that was able to have a balance of some Gvura and Chesed to create harmony. Tiferet, okay? So the goal is always to be able to balance between both. But you need both. In a relationship, you need both. From Gvura comes Haid. Haid is, over here they translated majesty, but it's glory. It's a perfectionist. Okay, to be a perfectionist, you need some Gvura. But in order to be a perfectionist, you also need, some people are perfectionists to the point that they're paralyzed. They won't, a lot of people, like I remember I was told that kids who don't talk right away, it's because they want to be so perfect. They're perfectionists. They don't want to say the words wrong, so they won't talk, even if they're able to. So then there's the midah of netzach. Netzach comes from chesed, and it's the midah of wanting to win all the time. So those people who have a lot of netzach will not be especially perfectionists. They'll just be like, I just want to get there. I don't care about the details. I'm very like that. I'm not a perfectionist. I just like getting things done, and I regret it because details are very important. So once you get Yesod foundation, you're able to take the netzach, the wanting to win, to get to the end, with Haid, with the glory, with the perfectionist, with the side of the perfectionist, and you get to the foundation, Yesod, and harmony, which brings the perfect. And this, after this,
Non, au-dessus. Ça, c'est différent.
ça c'est Yesod, Yesod, c'est fondation, the foundation. Okay, so it's the balance between glory and endurance, between winning and perfectionist. You can get, once you take that side of you of winning, but you make sure to take care of the details, you create a perfect foundation. And why am I saying this is because we have to understand how every emotion is important. And yes, certain emotions can sometimes seem negative, but if used in the right way, they can bring, and with the right balance, they can bring to...
Et par rapport au Homer, il y a un lien avec ça?
Bien sûr, le Homer,
Ouais.
chaque jour, on doit travailler sur une autre émotion pour arriver à la Torah, which is very connected to chapter 41.
Yeah.
It's balancing our emotions to be able to be a perfect vessel towards God. The Jews, after they left Egypt, they had to work, in order to receive the Torah, they had to work out their emotions and balance everything out in order to be able to receive the Torah. And this is when you attain perfect health, emotional health. God cares about how your emotion. It says that God is there looking over you in your heart and in your mind. In your mind, okay, your thought, but in your heart too. In your emotions, how you're feeling. Are you balancing your emotions? Are you making sure to be loving but have proper boundaries? Are you making sure to have a lot of winning and competition, or netzach, endurance, but also use that side of details of perfectionist? Do you have a good foundation? And finally, is the last one is malchut. And this takes all these emotions and brings it to the next level.
Is it possible it's connected to birthdays also? Parce que je me rappelle un jour avec l'anniversaire à Nessa, tu m'avais dit elle est...
Her birthday, no, because she's born on a day with, so she's connected to, you have, I don't remember by
heart. Il y
heart.
avait quelque chose avec...
She is, whoever is born during the Omer,
Ah,
yes, is connected to...
Parce qu'il y avait quelque chose Betty Ferret.
So it's possible. I need to see which one, because every night is two different sfirot that work together. It's very interesting. Anyway, sfirot is a whole other subject, but this is what we're going to be touching in the next few chapters, is how to balance our emotional life, understanding what fear is, understanding what love is, and how your fear of fear, and how to balance it. So thank you very much, and we will see you next week.
Bye, Mommy.